Hey guys, okay, so I'm gonna try to keep it away, the mic away from my mouth because I know that the last recording was really staticky. Excuse me. So, just to kind of re assess my downside targets, I would say definitely the first downside target, if we do break below this 11, maybe 1103, 1105 area, would be obviously the 1100 century figure, and then probably like 97 and then 91 quarter, and then below that, you know, we can probably look towards the 1070s ish, and below. So just to kind of revise what I said, my ultimate overall target is, you know, anything from as low as 1,000 if we get it, whatever. So we'll just trade the price action as it prints each day. So anywho, I know a lot of times throughout the day I will talk about IB high, IB low, VWAP, VPOC, you know, all that jazz. A lot of times what you'll notice is throughout the beginning of the day, what a lot of professional futures traders will do, they'll assign a high and low range according to the first hour's price action. So that I'm on the West Coast, so from 6:30 to 7:30 a.m., from the time the market opens to 7:30 is when the IB range is established, and that is bound between these two yellow lines here. Okay, so today you can see that we made a high of IB high, which is also, for today's example, the same as the high of the day at 1136 even, and a IB low at 1120 half, which you can see here on my charts. I have it from 6:30 to 7:30, ended about right there. So that was a low at 1120 half. And you guys, if you guys watch the ES chart, you guys can write, you know, just draw those trend lines or those levels too, so that you know exactly what IB high and what IB low is. What we tend to do is we say, okay, so auction process, buyers and sellers are just doing business, big money's establishing what they want to do. Now throughout the day, what are the OTF? I talk about OTF a lot, and that stands for other time frame traders, and that refers to, you know, the big guys that are loading up, like, you know, several thousand contracts, waiting for a 50 point to 100 point move just to see what they can do. And that's basically what they've been doing in this hourly chart here, is that I'm sure a lot of times they're loading up what they want to do, and their expectations are so and so, and they're gonna look for, you know, a larger range point move. For us as day traders, all we really care about is what is the OTF really trying to do for that day, because they're the ones that are going to determine whether or not we break out of this IB range, right? And so as you can see from the price action, it was pretty clear that OTF was pretty much aggressively selling all day long, and you can confirm that by looking at the tick action and the trend of the tick, because it will speak to you in terms of knowing who's in more control, the buyers or the sellers, for whatever range that, you know, of price action that's taking place. So when I am looking at a break of IB, and sometimes it's just a shakeout, and there are programs that are written, algorithms that are written simply to stop us out below IB and bring us right back into range, which is what seems to have happened right here. And another thing to keep in mind is also, like, where is the midpoint of the range of the day so far from where we've traded. And as you can see, midpoint is the darker blue, and VWAP is the lighter blue. And VWAP is an indicator I love, just simply because it, you know, it's either defined, it helps you define the support of the mid-range of the day relative to the volume traded, you know, by price. And a lot of times it coincides with the midpoint of the range itself. It just happens to be that way a lot of times. And many times it'll diverge as well, but that's a minor detail. What we want to see is, okay, given the range that we have for IB, or the entire range of the day itself so far, how does price action matching up to where we've explored price? Are we trying to get above it and go back and test higher levels above this range made for the day? Notably, IB, the initial balance, which is what IB stands for, is kind of like your benchmark. And so can we get above or below that benchmark, of acceptance, right? And so price acceptance is kind of in this range, and we explore outside of that, that initial balance range. We typically get a vertical day, or if we do usually stay, relatively close inbound during the range, buyers and sellers are content with and say that, this particular range so far for this day is a fair range for us, and we're not ready to, move out of this range until we receive new information. So if you think about it that way, it's a little bit more easy to swallow in terms of trying to gauge where we're at for the day and what we're trying to do and how good of a job we're really trying to do to get to where we need to go, right? So all day long, after the first initial chop fest that we've had here, we tried to get above VWAP. Nope, couldn't do it. Tested down below. Stopped out some longs here that are trying to wait for the bounce probably, and then right back up, trying to suck in some shorts and getting them back up. I mean, this is just frustration 101 all day long. But a lot of good money was made today. I think for the first part of the day, at least throughout the first half of the day. And then let's see, where was that spike? Okay, so now again we tried again to get above it. Nope, couldn't do it. Get back below IB range, and then boom, we came down and hit this LVN area here at around 10 quarter, 11 quarter right there, and we bounced. We weren't ready to accept the next lower range, lower HVN, and so we bounced. And that's kind of when this news came out of about what was it, about the euro, the ECB or whatever, European authority comes and says, okay, we're going to save 16 banks or something like that. What I used as a gauge was this LVN here, you see, because it held us as support, and then we bounced back up to VWAP, and then it came back down, and we chopped around here, and then you see this large red candle. That was like, okay, enough of this, we're going down and trying to see what we can do, what business we can do further down, okay? So that was a level of either you cover some puts and see what happens, and that's what I did there, and then if it gets down below to the next level, okay, cool, cover some more, see what happens, and a lot of it is just kind of feeling out the price action to see what's happening. And I don't even know what news is coming out, and then I saw this crap, and I'm like, shit, I gotta cover some puts, But I did short VWAP right here, and I used this 28, 29 level as a stop, which is a pretty wide stop, but on a day like today when there's a lot of volatility, you just trade smaller size with wider stops, and it was really rewarding because I think I scaled down, I forget where the heck I scaled down, but I had to cover some puts, and then I started seeing the price action. We couldn't get above here, and then I loaded some puts back on again on the SPY, and then I covered the majority of my puts position here. They were weekly, so I had to get rid of them today, right about 1107, because I was trying to front run the LVN here that we have at 1105 and 1 quarter on the longer term time frame. So that's what I do, is I look at the intraday levels because they're more sensitive to smaller peaks and valleys of volume nodes. But then you have to remember about, on the bigger term picture, on a longer term picture, when you look at the chart that the OTF is looking at, what are the levels that they want. And it seems to be that right here is where they, buyers said, okay, this is cheap enough, we're going to bring it back up. And that's probably some short covering as well. So a lot of this is just simply price exploration, and then we came right back up. This is where Lives got pissed off, because I know Keith was in some puts for, I think, Netflix and Apple or whatever, and I know Justin was in some puts, and we were waiting for some confirmation to kind of blow below. Oops, sorry. and then see if we can get to, and to seeing if we can do some business below here. But so this is basically the 3-minute chart that I'm showing you guys on this left side here, and I use this as a gauge also to see the consistency of selling order. If you could, let me try to, oops, crap. I'm gonna put that white and make this wider. Okay. So yeah, this is my trend line here, and that's exactly what it did. It basically just kind of stayed below that trend line area. I really had to just cover some levels, but this was a level of resistance. I tried shorting there. I got burned. Had to cover here, and then I didn't expect this little pop. And so now I don't know where the hell we are or overnight, but we're above this level, and we retested about 1 point over the high of the day's range overnight so far. I think that was 1137, which was a high over tonight. I think I mentioned that in the other video. So hopefully, so we covered midpoint, we covered VWAP, we covered IB, VPOC. So VPOC stands for volume point of control, which is the highest, the price level at which the most contracts have traded in a particular range. So for this day's range right here, the VPOC happens to be this level here, which is 1123, denoted by this thicker magenta line at 1123 at the end of the day. Now, VPOC can change and shift throughout the day according to where price action is done, and then if it moves away from that place and it does a lot of business somewhere else, then more contracts can have traded at that lower or higher level of wherever the hell it's doing business, and that newer VPOC can be now established. So it's important to keep in mind the shift of VPOC, because it helps you understand, are more sellers and buyers accepting lower or higher prices from relative to where the previous VPOC was at. A lot of times I'll also put out the acronym NVPOC, which is NVPOC, standing for the naked VPOC. If we looked here throughout the beginning of the day, we noticed that there was another pink, thick magenta line here, which is denoted by a naked VPOC. Some business sometime, a while back, there was a VPOC here that was never retested. And a lot of times, as I mentioned before, if you just think of a VPOC as a really big high volume node, that it's moving from one high volume node to another, and now we're back testing that high volume node. And that can either be a level just to kind of see what's going to happen at that point. Do we push through it? Do we accept it? Do we reject it and come back down? And in this case, we really clearly we tapped it and then came right back down, and that served as our resistance for the day's range, and coincided also, by literally less than a point. That's your IB high. So I keep an eye out for these particular levels, and this program's just nice because it automatically generates it, and I see what those levels are whenever we're getting close to that price action, and then you watch what happens there. It could be a great short setup or a great long setup, depending on what's really trying to happen. So hopefully that clears up a lot of the confusion as to what these acronyms are, what I mean by when I say this, and all that jazz. So any other things that aren't clear to you guys, please don't hesitate to ask me anytime. I am more than willing to, and will always make time to help explain things for you guys to understand. So anyways, that's it in a nutshell. 14 minutes. Sorry to take up your time. Hopefully you guys can watch this on a weekend, or when you're not that busy. But I'm not saying that you guys should totally take up volume profiling, but at the same time, it's just important to know, because a lot of times if we're expecting Apple or Amazon to do something because we're in trades that Lee's in, and it's just not happening for us. To me, she may not take stops, but from my account, I gotta take stops. And I have to reassess, do I get in, or do I flip, or do I go the other way, or just wait on the sidelines? And this will help me as a gauge to seeing what the overall market's trying to do relative on the day, and then whether or not I should re-enter, replay, or double down, or really expedite that option play that we're in. So again, my opinion is that ES trumps ES, SPY, SPX trumps everything else. Everything else comes second. So